Welcome to Driven, the Unscripted Success podcast, with your hosts, Mike Menino and Nariman Hamden, bringing you insights and stories on achieving personal, professional, and financial success.
Hi, everybody. It's Michael Menino, and welcome to Driven Unscripted Success podcast. Today on the podcast, we're interviewing professionals who share their experience and tips with you, the audience, on how they got to where they're at today. And today we're talking to Michael McVety from Red Fortress multifamily. So property management, and I'm into multifamily, and we have a bunch of property managers. So this is kind of cool to interview somebody that does what we do. This is awesome. Michael, how you doing?
I'm doing great. How about yourself, Michael?
Better than I deserve. So do me a favor, tell everybody about, we did a little earlier on the podcast or on the interview part, what you do, how you got to where you're at, and tell us a little bit about your family life too. I mean, you got a very interesting life.
That's true.
That is true.
So I guess I would say, first of all, on a professional note, and I should probably start off by saying, if people are hearing my accent, sometimes people are saying, well, where's your accent from? So originally I was born and raised in Montreal, Quebec, Canada. So when I came to the Fort Myers, Southwest Florida area about 25 to 30 years ago. So if you're trying to place the accent, there it is. So you can stop guessing.
Thank you.
Okay.
It's a little bit of a hint. I couldn't place it, to be honest with you.
Absolutely. So I came to live in the area at Fort Myers about 30 years ago, and I came down initially to start teaching. And my father was in business, the property management field, and I didn't start in that field right away. I started to teach and in a couple of different private schools, and then opportunity opened up at the company, and I started to work with family. So that was, as they say, the rest is history. So yeah, that's a little bit of an opening. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's awesome. I started with my dad's business in a restaurant, and it didn't work out well for me. So I fell into real estate. I fell into construction of real estate, and I absolutely loved it. My dad was really good at restaurants and then stocks. And he said, what did he say to me? He goes, I go, Dad, I'm horrible with stocks. He goes, your stock is real estate. So just double down on that. And then I stopped playing the real estate game and just stayed in stock. I stayed in real estate. I stopped playing the stock game and just stayed in real estate. It's just so much better. And you got some kids in there, don't you?
I have 3 kids. Two of them are 20 years old, and one is about to be 17 in just over a week.
Nice, congratulations, man! And if I'm not mistaken, if you don't mind talking about it, how'd you have them?
Exactly. So we adopted 3 children from Russia, the actual Volgograd region, which that's actually better known for Stalingrad from World War II. Okay, and so we did that when they were a year old, basically. So
awesome.
We've had our kids from anywhere from 16 to 19 years, and that was a fascinating process, to say the least. So that was back in 2006.
Well, kudos to you. That's awesome that you're adopting. That is amazing. The love that you get from the kids got to be insane. I really had. I told my wife, we had 2 kids. My biggest mistake was not having more. And then I said, hey, we could, adopt or, foster. And she's like, nope. I was like, when the wife says no, it's no.
It's probably true. And, it's amazing. Somebody said to me who had adopted before, and we were talking with them, they said that you will truly love them as your kids. And that is 100%. There's no difference. There is no difference. No, I know a bunch of adopted. My sister adopted. She was having a hard time having kids, 13 years, and then she goes, "I'm going to adopt." I'm like, as soon as you adopt, you're going to end up with more. And as soon as she adopted, she ended up having 2 more right after that. She was just so worried about it and stressed about it. And then as soon as she got in the mother routine, they just started coming out. So yeah, and she can't tell the difference. Nobody can tell the difference. It's 100% accurate. My former neighbor, when we had adopted, she looked at us, could not have kids. She adopted 2. And then all of a sudden one day after adopting 2, boom, she had a third, and it wasn't through adoption. So absolutely. I think they have 4 kids today, two natural, I guess you would say, and 2 adopted. That's funny.
Right. Mm-hmm. It's true, and it makes no sense. Like 13 years, my sister tried. 13 years. And the second she adopted, there's 2 more. I was like, well, there you go. This, I don't know if it's a stress or the just getting into the mother, the woman's body getting into the mother's flow. I don't know what it was, but it's really kind of cool. Kind of cool to watch.
It is.
Hey, listen, I know there's a lot of competition in your industry. I mean, there's just a ton. We interview a few people too. We buy multifamily and we invest in these big deals. And, if you have 100 unit and we want somebody to run it for us, we do interviews and we want to see which one's the best. What sets you apart? What do you do better than most? And what would you say to that?
Yeah, that's a great question. It's really interesting because, I was recently on an expert panel with a whole bunch of great property managers up in Tampa, and we were kind of asked, what's one mistake that you often see with property managers? And the first thing I would say is that separates apart is focus. So, multifamily is slightly different than say single family home management, where the competition lies is that very often people, say for instance in Florida, but other states, have to get a real estate license. And when they get a real estate license to be able to be a property manager, first of all, it has nothing to do with property management. It's just the legal ability for you to kind of become a property manager, even though they don't really teach you anything. So what the state of Florida does, like a lot of other states, is they want to try and hold somebody accountable for their actions in a public place. Because when we're holding security deposits, for instance, for residents, okay, the state of Florida wants to know that I have a professional license, and if I were to do something with that money, they could revoke my license and I would not be able to operate again. It's no different than
that makes sense,
right? Or an attorney. Now, sometimes it's in multifamily, that's not necessarily the case. That the person you're going to might be specialized more so in multifamily, but they don't necessarily have to have that same type of certification or licensing. Like for instance, in our apartment industry in our area, they don't have to have a real estate license. In fact, almost none of them do. They're typically seen as more customer service types of people. So when you talk about our company, for instance, with our focus, I've been doing property management only for 25 plus years. I have my broker's license. Yeah, I can 25. Yeah, just fairly new to the
industry.
And but I'll tell you,
you're retiring soon.
Yeah, every day is something new. But so when you look at it, like all the knowledge that I've received from property management doesn't come from me being licensed as a broker or as a salesperson at all. So I come 25 years every day. I come to work. I know what my role is. And when people say, well, wait, like you're a broker, you could set up a real estate company tomorrow. I said, absolutely. And they're like, so you can sell. I said, right, but I don't want to sell. I'm not interested in selling properties and listing them and that sort of stuff. I have a couple of rental properties myself, so I'm a landlord and that sort of thing. But I stay in our niche and focus. So that's, I think, one of our great successes, as well as, to be honest with you, once you kind of know your lane, like you were saying, don't do multifamily, stocks, Bitcoin, bonds, all this other stuff. I learned a very painful lesson in that, because there were a lot of temptations to do a lot of other things, to invest in a lot of other areas, and you better be really, really confident with the person that you're getting advice for, whether it's anything, real estate or otherwise. And so
agreed.
Your father, I'm just letting your listeners know, as a person that has been burned that way before, and because I left the market that I knew. And so I think focus is one of it. And also, honestly, jokingly, I learn new things every day, and I'm constantly seeking new information on how to improve our business. The market's always changing. And so I think a secondary thing is not just focus, but with that comes the desire to continue to learn and to be better at what I do.
Yep, I agree with that wholeheartedly. I mean, everything you do, you got to get better. Your life, everything you do. I had about 12 questions in my head, when you just mentioned that. I'm trying to think of trying to put a segue together to make this easy. So let's go this route. You had made mention learning, right? AI is helpful with everybody. How has it been helpful to you in your industry? Like making phone calls, reminding people about rents due, or have you used any of it and worked it out?
Great question. So, wow, this is AI is a very, very big topic, and I liken to AI. So there's a lot of fear. There are a lot of emotions that come with talking about AI. You go anywhere from Terminator and Skynet, and we're about to be taken over, right? To
Distinct possibility.
distinct possibility.
We're building robots and AI. I mean, it's exactly what they talked about 20 years ago. I mean, I don't know what to say.
Exactly. What could possibly go wrong? Because we always do everything so well and perfect as a race. So you have that versus people saying, it's not that really big of a deal. And first of all, I would kind of liken AI to Wi-Fi. I guess you don't need to use it, but it'd be really advantageous if you do, right? So, so AI, a lot of people in our industry are starting to use it like a type of task list, efficiency kind of approach, right? So, like you're saying, a follow-up, integrate with certain things, and there's that general push for efficiency, which is definitely there. I think where a lot of people kind of make errors is not using AI in a better way than that, and becoming more effective. So, like, what do I mean by that? Well, first of all, I would say to you that AI is designed to make you yourself a better person if you use it the right way. Okay, so you can look at it and say, for instance, let's take my kids. Very interesting that they're growing up while being in school and having stuff like Chat GPT and Gemini and videos and that. I mean, we were kind of excited when we got a scientific calculator way back when in school. These guys have like a virtual assistant, right, to help them. And so, like I was explaining this to them, I said, so if you were asked to do a project like write something, there's no doubt that you can use Chat GPT to do that project. But the problem is that you don't have any knowledge in that. You're using something to write something for you that you don't have any knowledge in that, and that's the problem. And so
that is a good point. That's a very good point.
Right. So in other words, if I were using ChatGPT to talk about molecular biology, okay, which I'm not very.
It knows molecular biology. And
it does. It does. And so whatever happens with that report, I have no way of editing. It's almost like a really serious advanced book review that you have no idea what's in that book review and why it's right or wrong. You just read the book and you don't have the ability to criticize it. You just say, well, I think that's right, and you don't know. So with AI, people have to understand it is designed to make you better, but you have to be wise enough. It's almost like when you're using a calculator, you have to have common sense that if you type in something wrong in the calculator, I used to teach math. So, but when you don't train your brain to do this, you won't understand it. If you said 3 times 5 and it came out to 1,500 or 1,500, the common sense would say that doesn't make any sense. But if you always rely on a calculator, you don't have that common sense. Things go wrong. It's the same thing with ChatGPT, and I see it a lot. So how we use it to answer your question is not just an efficiency, it's also effectiveness. So for instance, give you an example, I'm going to be doing for our clients a Zoom session on hurricanes. Okay, so first, what I use AI for is I design my own thoughts on a topic, and then I might use AI to bounce ideas off of. So I'm already coming in with knowledge and saying, here's what I'd like to talk about. Here's some ideas I have. Do you see like a glaring subject that I'm missing? Do you see something that might be able to be better? So when you're talking about using products or services, it's AI is really about making you better as a person, looking around your blind spots that you see as a person or don't really know as a person. And, depending on how you use AI, it starts to get to know you better. So it's going to get more in tune with you, and it'll be more like a personal assistant or virtual assistant if you use it the right way.
Correct. Yeah, we love using it in our industry too, but I'm just thinking of culminating information. Like if we wanted to underwrite a deal, you could take all the information, set it in ChatGPT, and say underwrite this deal. Tell me if it's a good deal or bad deal, and that's you understand underwriting. It's not fun. That is probably the worst part of what we do, and we do it a lot to make sure that our deals are set right, and they cash flow and everything's good after the purchase. Because I'm sure you've ran into a few times where you bought something and you anticipated being something, and it's not that.
It's not that, and that's where you're right. There's a lot of different performance or programs that people use, custom GPTs to do things like you're talking about. And the biggest thing behind it is right that you, Michael, are the one to look this over and say, does this really make sense? And much like the internet, some of the things that come out of whatever program you're using in AI are not factually correct.
Oh yeah. I'm going to give you an example, and you'll understand this perfectly. ChatGPT is designed to engage with you, right?
Right.
So it keeps going through avenues of conversation with you to the point where you want to engage with it. And it was telling my friend that he was at a 10% body fat. I'm like, you're not at 10% body fat, my friend. ChatGPT's telling me I'm at 10%. I took a picture and sent it to him. Like, like you said, the common sense. You made mention to that. The common sense of knowing what the question is and seeing if it's answering it correctly. So checks and balances in that. But I know exactly what you're talking about.
Yeah, it's just, and like you're saying, when you're designing something to make an offer or to go through research, like one of the amazing things about AI is its ability to take massive amounts of data and make sense of it, trends, like you're saying, like, hey, how many properties have been bought in this area? But you always have to look.
What is the cap rate in the area, which is difficult to find, right? Exactly. That's a difficult metric to find for the people, for the audience. Cap rate is just basically the capitalization rate of a property when you buy a multifamily. You literally have to find out the cap rate of the area to determine the price of the property that you're buying.
Exactly. And so you could attempt to use AI to glean all that information. But again, much like a credit report, much like items online, the problem is that data is not necessarily correct.
Yes. And like my friend, it's telling what you want to hear.
Exactly. 10% body fat. The
10% body fat.
The ROI is 10%.
Yeah, the ROI is 10%. Yeah, you're going to make 10% of your money. Yeah, I'm making nothing and paying money on this one. How'd that one happen? Oh, ChatGPT was wrong. I'm like, oh, it's wrong? Yeah, it's wrong. You're going to lose money. How do you like that?
Exactly.
So tell me a little bit, everybody's had bumps in the road and everybody's had problems in their business. I'd love to hear your biggest problem and how you handled it.
Wow. Biggest problem. Well, I could tell you something that, looking back on it, there was something that I wish that I had done. So once I explain it to you, I think you'll understand why I think it was like an obstacle. So one of the issues that you have when you're running a business for long term, you're talking second generation, you're having a transfer of leadership. I mean, we had done, through my father primarily, then myself coming on, we had done a very good job at like I said, growing focus and educating. But there was a time between the transition with my father and I, and he still, by the way, comes in once or twice a week. He'll hang out at our weekly staff meeting, so it's good. So he's still involved. He has rental properties. He wants to still feel the vibe, but he's done his time for king and country, if you like. So he's earned his retirement or semi-retirement in his case.
Right.
So during that time where we were supposed to be or purported to be excellent or great or whatever success term that you want to use, we stopped growing. We stopped focus on doing what we should be doing to improve. And it was kind of like a gliding stage. And I'm not saying that as a company, you're always grow, 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 and there's never some type of modification of what you want to do. But I just felt, looking back on it, there was definitely a period of time where we just felt, you know what, that we were just like on cruise control type of mentality. You know what I mean? Like this
Well,
was just
you were doing it well, and it was going good.
right.
Then to stretch yourself to get better is to put more on your plate.
Absolutely. And so, like when things are going well economically for a company, that's not typically when you're going to innovate. When you're in a very down market, when when your cap rate didn't come in at 10% or whatever,
right?
That GBT,
10% cap rate, killed for 10% cap rate.
Yeah, exactly. You would be like, all of a sudden you're like, okay, well, how do I correct this? And that's one of the things to do is kind of like, so you're say good at what you do, and good is if you're good, it's hard to get to excellent, and if you're excellent.
I heard a term. Tell me if this is true. Good is the enemy of great.
I understand that, and I would agree with it, because when you don't approach things with a certain level of humility, when you don't appreciate that things are always changing, you can take any type of sports star. Why is it that some of the people that are the greatest athletes in the world, why do they continue to train? Why do they continue to get coached? If they're that good, if they're number one hockey player, tennis player, if they're the number one quarterback, whatever, why is it that they continue to do what they do? I mean, if they're the best, then why do you have to even train anymore? And because you can always be better, right?
Go ahead. I want to hear what you have to say on this.
Sure. So then when you go from, say, good, and you're right, good can definitely be the impediment to great. But then once you become great, I would say, how do you then become exceptional? And that is where when you ask me the biggest, kind of obstacle, say I had to overcome in business, I look back on that, and I don't want to use the word with regret, because regret, I think, is an emotional term that you use when you haven't learned the lesson of what you were supposed to learn from that time. So I would regret that if I didn't change, pivot, and say, I want to be better, and I cannot let this occur again. I'm not interested in being average or kind of good or a little bit better than other people. It's not about the other people, it's about yourself. And we all know that, whether it's you or I or anybody listening, that there are a lot of talents that we have that we want to develop, and there are a lot of hidden talents that we don't even know we have that we could develop. So I think that if that makes sense to what I just said, I think I look back on that and I said, I'm like, no, I'm not going to do that. We're not going to coast anymore.
That's really good. I know exactly how you feel. I talk about this a lot, and I probably shouldn't. I'm a professional brick breaker, and I just got back from the U.S. Open. And at 60 years old, I got a first and second, which is kind of crazy. I've got now 12 first place trophies, 2 ISK belts, and 1 world record. Wow. The answer to your question is, when you get to the top, what do you do from there? Here's the answer. So A is competition. That's why I do it. Competition makes you better, right off the bat. So where you were at last year, you want to get better next year. We had a conversation. You have 450 doors. You're trying to get to 500. You're putting competition on yourself. And I tried to explain to people, when you win, you're 100% right. When I've won all those first place, I didn't learn anything. Because the second, the third, the fourth, the 2-6 that I got this year, I learned something. Right now, I'm going to work on that to get better next year. What do you do when you're on top and you don't learn anything? Here's the key. When I trained for the next year, I didn't train to be where I was at, because I know the people behind me were trying to beat me. So I got to beat what I did last year. And Absolutely. So it's really competition. So then that's what we were talking. You made mention of it earlier. We're here. We want to go here. You got to beat your last year. So that is really the answer to the competitive question. if that makes any sense.
Yeah, absolutely. And there's so much what you just said to like unpack, because it's not in some ways just about you. Like you're saying, you're running your own race. You did what you did, and now you want to improve upon it. But you can only take yourself and other people as far as you can currently go. If I picked up a golf club, I can't all of a sudden become amazing at it, because trust me, it's not pretty. Okay, like
me neither.
So if I wanted to get better, I mean, I guess I can go out there and keep swinging clubs, but I need like a mentor. I need somebody a coach who can say, this is what you're doing differently. And sometimes, like when you're, say for instance, you're finishing first place, the question is, well, you're in first place. So who do you kind of go to? Sometimes it might be a person that does something differently in your field, or maybe it's somebody from outside of your field that's going to provide some type of insight, a nutritional thing, whatever the case.
Yeah, that's big too. That's really big too. That part. There's to compete at a high level, you have to do everything correctly in anything you do. Just like what you're doing, you have to compete at a higher level. And I love what you do, but I could never do it. I mean, just the organizational skill set to get all of that done and all the properties and pay all the taxes. I mean, I just want people to understand how difficult what you do is. You pay taxes on the properties, correct? And you may pay some mortgages on some and not pay mortgages on others.
That's correct.
Organize that. Get 450 mortgage payments, some, or maybe not, say 400 out of 450. And which ones are you going to pay the taxes on? Which one you're going to pay the mortgages on? That sounds just insane to me how you guys do that. But you guys kill it. I mean, our property managers we absolutely love, and and once in a while we find something they miss. We just show them, hey, you missed this, and like, oh yeah, no problem. How do you organize all of that?
It's interesting to be able to do it. It's a different mindset. Because again, people think like property management's, again, like in our industry, it's like sales, and it isn't. One of the great analogies I heard is that property management is like farming and sales is like hunting. Property management is like farming and sales is like hunting. And so
that's a good one.
Yeah, and it's it's the attention to detail. Like for instance, if you were a salesperson and I was trying to buy you, say for instance, or find you a home, Michael, we might interact over the course of like a couple of months, depending on the market, depending on how specific you were, that sort of thing. Well, for us, we have, say, 200 clients, and a lot of the clients have like a single family home or a duplex. They're not super wealthy people, whatever you might think about landlords. They're always driving like Lamborghinis. That's not the case for 98% of the
not for most of them, right?
Not for most of them at all. And so when we have these 200 clients and stuff like that, we're dealing with all their details, it's like a type of farming, and we deal with them, our average client, for 7.5 years.
Oh, good. So that's good. So that says something about your company. So if you've got a landlord that you're running their property for 7.5 years, that means you're great. There's not a lot of, that's a high turnover space, right? For us, it's a lot because typically it's different. We're in the same industry, but it's different in multifamily versus single family. In multifamily, we only hold our properties for 5 years. Right. And they try and hold them anywhere from 3 to 5 years.
Right.
So it's different. We always do go through, and find good property managers and stuff like that. But with you, how long you got people for 7.5 years. Mm-hmm. And it's your average.
Right. We have one of our clients that's second generation.
Nice. Right. Nice. Is it more than a single family, or just all they got multiple single families?
Yeah, they have like 3 single family homes, and one of the sons took it over and went from there. Yeah. They saw the value of holding on to real estate. And again, like you're right, multifamily is much different. We deal with some smaller multifamily. We don't deal with bigger ones like 100 units. And because again, you're entering a different niche, a different mentality than say
different. You have to have people on site. You got to hire more people to put them on that site.
Exactly. Yeah. Like I personally managed 45 units, that sort of thing, Michael. But
is that tough? I mean, 45 is, the they see at 70, 75, we're supposed to have people on site. When you get up to 75, it's a real question mark. Like 45 to 75 is, you'd like to almost have someone there, right?
Right. It really depends on the level of technology that you're going to employ, and also I would say what type of asset it is. Like, is it high or low maintenance type of thing? And of course, we could talk about like A, B, and C properties, but each one of those has a particular concern of the residents, and so that might require somebody to be on site, and or more specifically.
That's a good point. That's a good point. That's a very good point. That's a very, very, very a Class A asset at 45 would probably be way easier to manage than a Class D asset.
Exactly. Right. And then you have to throw a maintenance person. I mean, a Class D, it might be even more important to have maintenance around than a person accepting applications versus a Class A, right? So.
Yeah. Where you're going to put it? What? Yeah. That's a good point. Yeah. That's a good point. Yeah. That's awesome. Looking back at the past, everybody's made mistakes. What is one mistake that you would make? We talked about, not scaling, right? But is there a mistake that you've made that you, in hindsight, you wanted to? Let me rephrase the question.
Sure.
So, if you could go back in time to your 20s, and you could do anything you want, you knew everything you knew now, what would you do different? What would you do the same?
Wow. Yeah. And that's the big point that you said, Michael, is with the same knowledge.
Right.
Right. So I've often said that to people, like, if you can go back in time and go and become 25 again, but you lose all of your knowledge.
No, then you're doing exactly the same thing.
Exactly. That it's a totally different.
It's irrelevant.
Thing. Yeah, and I would say I wouldn't do that. By the way, I would not go back to 25 with the knowledge that I know. So just for the record, and so if I were 25 and I had the knowledge that I have today, so one of the things that I would do differently is that I would be more active in real estate investing. So
Gotcha.
My father had started to invest. That's a little bit of the roots of the company. And it's one of those things that maybe when your family's doing it and you're kind of working in the business, you're working on other clients, we didn't really focus as much, or I didn't focus as much on trying to build the real estate investment side of things.
You were building the company. You wanted to focus on the company.
As opposed to, now don't get me wrong, I do have some rental properties. It's not that I didn't do it. I'm just saying that if you're looking at it, again, I would have worked on that myself. I would have looked at maybe pursuing more deals so that I can bring it into our portfolio. And again, my father has properties, I have properties, and you're looking at, again, I'm more of a single family home or a couple of duplexes I have as well, but so more like single family or small multifamily, and these are assets that I hold, so I can give, if I choose to my kids. And
gotcha.
So that's something that I would have done different.
We'll talk afterwards. I can show you some really cool things to do with multifamily. It's a lot of fun.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah. I appreciate
single family is great. Don't get me wrong. We flip houses in Michigan, and now we're doing them in South Carolina, and I did some in Florida. But it's great, but it's income, and I like passive income. You know better than anybody the difference between passive and active income and the tax liability.
Absolutely. Right. So that's why, like, we're in a very down market, not like it was in 2006, 7, and 8, because our area was. They literally said we were the start of the bubble bursting, our area, and we have a very much of a typical boom bust type of cycle. So I'm more of a buy and hold type of person. And, the people that are coming to me today, they're like, well, Michael, we can't sell it. What do? We can't get
rent.
You rent it out, exactly.
Rent.
And then what I say to them is,
wait till the market comes back up. It's such a simple concept.
It is, but I'll tell you, financial literacy for some and trying to get their ego out of the way is it's tough for people. They're like, but I don't want to rent. I want my $500,000 for the home or whatever it is, and I say to them, keep in mind that when you sell, that asset's gone. and so it's no longer income producing, and that's not a bad thing. It's not like nobody should ever sell. Like obviously you're multifamily, that's exactly what you do. You're on to you've done what you needed, you cleaned up the property, you've rented it out.
Value add. Yep,
Right,
yep.
value add, and now you're moving on down the road, and I understand that. So I say to them, but like you say, if you blow it out the door today and just sell it for whatever you can get your offer for, you've lost that asset. And whereas if you held on to it for 3 or 4 years, good things are going to happen. That value will be back. Right.
I would recommend. Here's the biggest mistake I've made over the. I don't know if I've ever talked about this. My biggest mistake is I didn't hold everything. I would have held so much more. I mean, I bought in 08, 9, and 10 when I started flipping. What I did was I had a building company. There's nothing to do. There's nothing to do. I had good guys. I wanted to keep them busy, right? A friend of mine said, "Hey, you want to buy a house for $14,500?" Like, yeah, sure. We bought the house, put my guys in there. It was nothing. We got it for nothing, and then I put them guys in there, and then rented it out, and then bought another one, and bought another one, and bought another one because they were just deals, right?
Absolutely.
And then I sold them. Which now, like, if I would have went back, I would have got mortgages on those.
Right.
And maybe you could tell your clients that want to sell it, do you have a mortgage on it? No. Why don't you get a 50% mortgage, pull your money out of it, and that money is tax free because it's debt, right?
Mm-hmm. Right.
And then they could take money and still have the asset, and it's still appreciated. So you get a win-win situation. That's what I would have done more of back in the day. I don't think there's a lot of properties that wouldn't have sold. There would have been single and multifamily.
No, absolutely. And the same thing with multifamily. Like if it's great, then it's great, right? So why get rid of it? Like
it's not getting worse.
It's like, exactly. If the goose is laying the golden egg, why does the goose have to keep getting bigger, so to speak, right? Like it's The
multifamily just seems to me to be so much, like, it's so great in so many different levels. Like if you buy a multifamily, like some of these guys got multifamilies and they bought them when the interest rate was 3%. Right. And now the cap rate's at 6-7%. Right. So they're losing money. For the audience, it's a division of the asset. So it's not really the timesing the asset. So the division of it. Right. So if you have a 3 cap rate and it's $1 million, and then it goes to 7 cap rate, then it goes down to like probably $400,000, the value of the property. Right. I would just I like hold. I like hold now, and that was the biggest mistake I've ever done.
Yeah, and like sometimes there is, like you're saying, like you look back on it and you're like, wow, I sold it, I shouldn't have, but at the same time, that some of those sellings that you did might have created different assets that were also good.
They did.
Yeah,
but if I could have pulled the money out, kept the asset, and then still did the other deal, right? That's the next level.
That's the price of wisdom. The price you pay for wisdom means it's not perfect.
Yeah, the stupid tax, right?
Yeah,
that's the most expensive tax in the world.
Exactly.
Oh wow, Mike! Listen, I've killed too much of your time, and I laid out an expectation, and we blew it out of the water, which I knew we would have. I knew this was going to be a great interview. I could ask you 3 or 4 other questions, but how about we might do this again later on. If anybody wants to get in touch with you, how would they do that? What would they do? How would they search you down?
Sure. Well, Red Fortress Property Management. We're in Fort Myers, Florida. So Red Fortress, the color, the fortress like a castle, propertymanagement.com. Or you can also truncate it, redfortresspm.com if you don't want to type it out, short for property management. They can also email me, Mike, M-I-K-E, at redfortresspm.com. And I'm here to help people. Honestly, I enjoy, like yourself, Michael, I enjoy teaching people what I know. And I really try to help people avoid making really poor real estate decisions, because I see it all the time. And I get a lot of clients that come.
Breaks your heart, doesn't it? You're like, do this. And they're like, no. And I'm like,
it's one thing. Yeah, exactly.
Breaks your heart.
It's terrible. It's one thing when you make a mistake yourself. It's another thing when you know that you could have prevented somebody else from making a mistake, and then they come back 2 weeks later and something really awful's happened. It does break your heart, and it doesn't make me feel any better to be right any more than if you told your kids something and they didn't listen and you happen to be right. That doesn't really help you feel better.
No, But for the kids' part, well, maybe even for the clients' parts too. Like I try and give people a lot of coaching. I love to teach people, and when I tell somebody to do something, it would be something that I would do, and I benefited from this particular situation. All in all, so with your kids, if they don't do it, my kid didn't listen to me all the time, and I just made your job as a parent is not to not let your kids fall. Your job as a parent to moderate the fall at their age.
Absolutely.
Right? Mm-hmm. You don't want a 40-year-old kid to take on this huge debt that might collapse his financial future. If he's 16 or 18, you can be a little more risky. So you just make sure the falls aren't too great.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. It is a good point. Yeah, it really, so anything I can do to help the people. I mean, I know that things are different in your state versus mine, but still some general principles are there. And especially when it comes to property management, love to help anybody out that I can.
Well, this is going to be a podcast worldwide. So if people call you, it might not be from your state, my state, or our country.
That's fine. That's fine. I'll even help Canadians too. My
there you go.
Right? Absolutely. Absolutely.
Hey, Mike, I can't thank you enough, man. Well, I thank you for your time and thank you for your wisdom. Appreciate you.
Thank you, Michael.
Thanks for listening to Driven, the Unscripted Success Podcast. Want to share your story? Apply to be a guest at drivensuccesspodcast.com/guest.